28.
Okay. Maybe we'll start. So welcome everybody. Welcome to this morning. And we're going to start by saluting the shrine. So we'll do that every morning in unison. Even though we won't be able to hear each other, we'll know each other is there as we do it. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dhammaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Namo. Om Ahong. So, nice to see you all. So I was given a bit of feedback yesterday by my team, and apparently when I do presentations or talk on the screen, I tend to do this. So it really was very helpful to have that pointed out. And I realize it's because I'm trying to have contact with you through the screen. And I feel a lack of contact because I can't hear you and you're just in little boxes and haven't got a sense of you, and I can't even smell you, I can't anything you. And that gives me an unpleasant sensation. You know, I don't like it. So I don't like it, and that leads to an impulse, and the impulse is to move closer to you, even though that doesn't work. So I'm going to try and be aware of that unpleasant feeling and just stay with that. Notice the not liking it and try not to go with the impulse to move forwards, but to just reassure myself that you're all actually there. Naga Bodhi did even then add to that this morning by saying, did I have to wear such big black chunky glasses? And I thought, oh great, I'll take them off and then I won't even be able to see you. So not only will I not hear you, sense you, I won't be able to see you. So I said, no, chunky glasses are staying. So that actually brings me on to another point, which is we talked about last night in the team meeting, just to sort of say, you know, how we are in relation to the screen is does have quite an effect, really, you know, depending on what our reactions are to it. And I think particularly when we're meditating, it's useful to think about how you want the screen to be. You know, some people do like to stay facing the screen and to sort of have a sense of others there, and that's a perfectly good way of doing it. Some people might want to turn the image off completely and just have that sort of privacy. What I tend to do is I just kind of point it at something. Yeah, so it's still in the room, as it were, but I've got that sort of sense of not feeling so drawn in to the screen, which obviously for me is important. Otherwise I'll be meditating like this. So so just think of that when you come to do the meditation. It's quite up to you how you have the screen, and to sort of think about that. That is something that's kind of under your control. Okay, so yeah, today I've got a session, and we're going to be doing a little sort of sesshin later as part of it, but I am going to talk first. And I'll tell you what, I will ask if Nagabodhi and Vishvapani just unmute yourselves, just so I can hear something. I just find it so weird. That's, yeah.
All right.
Right. Yeah, then it just feels a bit more human. Okay, so yeah, so what I'm talking about today, well, let's go to yesterday first. Yesterday, we really sort of looked at the body and its sensations. So Vidyamala brought us very strongly into the body. Yeah, she sort of embodied us with our breath, doing that wonderful kind of full on body breathing, and invited us into our bodies, as in a sense. And then I did a body scan where I was sort of emphasizing, I guess, sort of noticing the difference between our actual sensations and our conceptualization about sensations. So conceptualization meaning our thoughts about sensations, our images about sensations, our judgments about the sensations. So not those, but actually being able to notice the pure sort of wordless experience of sensation. And that's, I guess, what we would call in Buddhism direct experience. A direct experience is experiencing sensations as sensations, thoughts as thoughts, feelings as feelings. And that, I think, is incredibly important in everything, actually, but within the mindfulness world, certainly with the mindfulness-based cognitive therapy course, you spend the first 3 weeks in a way actually sort of training people to learn how to come into sensation in that direct way and to notice the difference between thoughts and thinking and actual sensations in the present moment. And we also spend about 3 weeks kind of training people how to then use that as an anchor, a place to come back to by moving our attention that's usually caught up with the conceptualization about sensations, by moving our attention from that onto the direct experience of our sensations. So that's a big part of the training. And a very, very important part, I think, of just you know, working with our experience in a Buddhist context. And just to make sure you got what I meant, which I'm sure you did, but just in case, we could just do a little tiny exercise now, which is I just want you to imagine as fully as you can clapping your hands once hard. Yeah, so just really imagine what that would be like. So it might take a little bit of time to kind of get there, but I just want you to imagine that sort of movement in your arms, the feeling as your hands hit one another, the sound, really as vividly as you can. Images, thoughts. Will it be nice? Won't it be nice? Don't you care? Whatever. Just keep doing it, keep imagining it, really slapping your hands together. Okay. And now, on the count of 1, I want you to slap your hands together as hard as you can without hurting yourself, of course. Okay, 1. You might even have missed it. Let's do it again. Do it with as much awareness as you can. 1. Yeah. So that is the difference between direct experience and imagining. It's the difference between that as much as you imagine it, as much as you have an image of it or a kind of conceptual memory of it, what it was like last time you clapped your hands, it's not the same as the heat in your hands, the feeling of the slapping, the momentariness, the sound, the sense experience. Or a bit like the difference between, you know, imagining eating a peach, you know, eating a juicy peach. And I mean, it can be quite a pleasurable thing to imagine that, can't, you know, sinking your teeth into it, all the lovely juice, the taste. But that is nothing like actually getting a peach and putting it in your mouth and biting into it and feeling it running down your face and feeling those sugary things hitting your taste buds and feeling the texture of it and noticing that maybe the peach has different nuances to its sweetness and its flavor. So we're just trying to more and more kind of recognize the difference between that. It's not that conceptualization is bad. It has its own wonderful place in our experience, but just to notice the difference, to know the difference, because on the whole, we tend to fuse them. And then we don't even really explore actual direct experience very much. We more and more just go straight to the old concepts that we've got about things. We don't come to them fresh, as it were. And all the senses are really great as an anchor into that direct experience. It doesn't just have to be the body sensations, can be thought, can be hearing, looking, you know, smelling, anything. But the sensations of the body are particularly sort of useful, I think, as an anchor. So many useful things about just being in the body, but one of the really useful things is it so brings us into the present very sort of vividly. Because what happens as we bite into that peach, it's now that we feel the pleasure of it, that we feel the sensations of it. If we stub our toe, it's then that we feel the pain. We can't put it off for later. Yeah, so it brings us right in, sensations bring us right into now, into the experience that we're having. Whereas in our mind, we could be imagining we're eating a peach. We could be imagining we're anywhere at the moment, but the body brings us into now. And as we explore that direct experience, I think we also start to notice more and more that some experiences are nice, maybe like eating a peach. Some experiences are not so nice, maybe like stubbing your toe. And some experiences are like, you know, you don't really have an opinion on them. They're neither one or the other. They're kind of neutral. So we're going to have a little bit of a look at that whole area, having sort of explored getting into the body, direct experience. We're going to have a look at, what comes out of that. We start to notice there's more to it than just sensation, that there are sensations that we like, that are pleasant, that we don't like, that are unpleasant, or that are neutral, that we are indifferent to. And of course, in Buddhism, we call this Vedana. And I think it's a little bit confusing, actually, Vedana, because it gets translated as feeling sometimes, it gets translated as sensation sometimes, and then we use those terms to mean other things in kind of ordinary life. Sometimes it's called hedonic tone. I actually think that's more helpful than feeling and sensations, because it means, the tone of pleasure that's within the sensation. So I was thinking it's a bit like a pleasure barometer. Yeah, so we have a kind of pleasure barometer built in to our experience of sensations. And it kind of goes, there's pleasure there, there's pain there, there's don't know yet there. And, as soon as we have a sensation, poof, it goes to one or the other. It places itself for us. Is this a pleasurable, a painful, or a neutral sensation? And the moment we experience that, We don't just stay with it. We don't just go, oh, that's interesting. That's an unpleasant experience. Oh, this is a pleasant one. We go, don't want that. Don't want that unpleasant experience. Want more of that pleasurable experience, and am indifferent, to the middle experience of neutralness. Might just go off looking for something more pleasant or unpleasant. So we tend to slip off neutral and look for something that has a stronger barometer fix on the hedonic barometer. So that kind of, we all know that, don't we? That's the push and pull, of that we're working with, the pushing away of what's unpleasant, the pulling towards us of what is pleasant. And in a way, you could say it's quite sort of sensible, really. Probably it stops us, stopped us when we were kids from putting our hands in the fire and keeping them there. Or, it enabled us to move towards things that are helpful and nice and give us security, whatever. But the fact is, it overpins everything in our experience. It's functioning all the time. And that would be great if it worked. If in an ultimate way it worked and we really could keep out everything that was unpleasant and pull in all that was pleasant. But the problem is that it doesn't, and we can't. So it becomes something of a rather sort of desperate dance to try and manipulate both our experience of ourselves and our experience of life, to push away that which for some reason or another we don't like, and hang on to, or try and get more of that feels good for us. But we can't sort of ultimately keep that going. We do get what we don't want, whatever. We can have things absolutely, it seems like we've got everything in the right place in our life, internally, externally, and then we get ill. Or then maybe we're okay, but maybe someone close to us becomes ill, or maybe I'm okay with lockdown and it's quite nice and I'm on retreat, and then we think, oh God, there are all these people in India and they're really, there are a lot of people suffering. Well, there are a lot of people suffering all over the world with this. So we just can't, life is kind of bigger than us. Experience is bigger than us. We can't control it in that way. And even when we get what we want, what was it? As Oscar Wilde said, there's only one thing worse than not getting what you want, and that is getting what you want. We get what we want and then we're anxious about it. Are we going to lose it? It's more complex than we thought, or it doesn't quite bring the promise we thought it would bring, and we're left wanting, buyer's remorse. So we can't control it, but we continue to try. And the problem is, I guess, that happens on automatic. It happens really immediately. We don't notice it. And then also, I think one of the problems is that we just identify with those. We identify with that pushing and pulling. I am that person that doesn't like that. I am that person that hangs on to that. I am that person that feels good. I am that person that doesn't feel good. We build an identity like a crust around that process, and then that fixes us even more within it. And we can see that in the Vedana chain, can't we? Contact, feeling, craving, which is that pushing and pulling, that dance of manipulation, grasping, trying to get more of it, less of it, in the impulse for me to move towards the screen, and then becoming, being, so identity, being it, and then death, of course, because it ends. So what's seems to be a protective mechanism becomes a cage, doesn't it? Becomes a cage, which at the very least stops us from experiencing life as fully, richly, lucidly as we could, you know. But at the worst, it binds us to suffering. It binds us to suffering because we can't control something. And ultimately, we're trying to sort of suck something out of life that it can't provide. It can't provide permanence of pleasure, and it can't stop from challenging us on the deepest of levels. So, so one of the things we can do is start to learn how to, one, recognize this when it happens, start to take more awareness to the actual experience of pleasant, painful, and neutral, to bring it into our mindfulness. And through that, start to see how we react to it, which is really, really useful. We start to see what those processes are that kind of follow on from that, but also learn how to stay with the pleasant, the painful, and the neutral in a non-reactive, in a more open kind of way. And that just leaves more room for choice about then what do we do? You know, if something's painful, if we just knee-jerk react to it, maybe it's to distract ourselves, maybe it's to blame someone, maybe it's to feel bad about ourselves. You know, well, yeah, noticing that is really good, that we notice those habits. But then if we start to free ourselves from that, we start to stay with that and be able to be with that experience of discomfort. Maybe it's not quite what we thought it was. Often experience isn't what we think it is in our head. But then if we do that, then we can think, actually, really, what would help? What would really help now? Yeah, now I'm not in knee-jerk response. What would actually help me? So it's very helpful for that if we can learn to do that. And also, I think it just starts to open life up. Yeah, we're not kind of doing this mad dance of manipulation all the time. We can actually start to experience life more fully. We can let it flow through us more freely, which is more enjoyable. And it points us to how we are manipulating life and how we can see life more for what it is. So what I'm going to do, or what I'm going to suggest that we do, is this is something that I wouldn't do in a introductory mindfulness course, but I've done it with people that have done introductory mindfulness courses already, so they're already kind of quite familiar with the territory. And that is to do a little sort of sesshin, and we'll do 3 meditations with 2 breaks in between. And in each meditation, we'll just explore one aspect of the Vedana. So we'll look at unpleasant sensation, then we'll look at neutral sensation, then we'll look at pleasurable sensation. Of course, you can be aware of the Vedanas anytime, on and off the cushion, and it's really helpful to do so. The useful thing about meditation is it's like sometimes in mindfulness we talk about it as a sort of the laboratory of the mind, so you can really see things very finely in detail happening in your mind, and then when you go out into the world, there's a chance you might notice that happening as it happens, because you've sort of seen it in meditation where there was less kind of stuff going on, less distraction and more attention. If, of course, these are only suggestions, and when I do it, I'll kind of remind us of the particular area that we're looking at. But if for you that's not right for you to do today, don't do it. Do what you need to do, and that's always the case. And if we're focusing on unpleasant sensations and you've just entered the 3rd dhyana or something, off you go, eh? You know, do what you need to do. You could notice is what is there that's unsatisfactory there. I do believe people do that. I can't say I'm one of them, but you know, I'd love to be in that position, but you could do that. And as we go into it, we're just going to sort of look at ways of just being aware of the experience, just staying with, even it might be quite small, kind of little seeds of the area that I'm looking at. And, you know, with unpleasant experience, well, we might be able to let it in a bit more if we bring some more kindness to that area. So for unpleasant experience, a bit of kindness, or at the very least, just simple acknowledgement, or can we find some willingness to just be with, and in a very sensitive way. So always sensitive when we're working with our experience. We're really not trying to kind of coerce anything in our experience. We're just lightly sort of getting interested in having a look and seeing what would help us to be able to stay with this more. With neutral, just to bring more curiosity. You know, neutral is very important, I think, as one of the Vedanas. I think often it gets skated over. That's because that's what we tend to do with neutral. But all sorts of aspects of our experience are neutral. And what do? Immediately, we start looking for something more pleasurable or more painful. So to be able to stay with the neutral and get interested in it and start to investigate it and explore it is a very, very important and helpful thing to be able to do, even within just well-being, but also kind of within being more deeply and fully present. And then, of course, there's pleasant sensation, and to just sort of allow ourselves to feel it, you know, to enjoy it, to be with the pleasant sensations that we're actually having. Because you'd think that would be dead easy, wouldn't you? You'd think the pleasant one would just be really easy. But actually it's not. And when we have pleasant experience, often immediately we'll be looking at how to increase that pleasurable experience, or is it as good as the pleasurable experience we've had before? Or, you know, I'm sure you've all had that experience where you know, I was walking the dog the other day and it was a sunny day, and I was actually trying to be more aware of my pleasant sensations as a kind of exercise as I was going about with the dog. And I just looked and saw there was just this little band of trees and leaves that were hitting the sunlight and all sort of, you know, kind of rustling, and they were absolutely exquisite. And I had this moment of sort of exquisite sort of pleasure, and then immediately it was like, oh, that was nice. That was a really nice experience. Yeah. Oh, that was a pleasurable experience. Yeah. Oh, maybe I could do it again. You know, kind of immediately trying to, or, you know, you bite into something tasty and you know, apple pie, and then you think, oh, wouldn't it be nice with cream, or you know. So actually it can be quite difficult, or it can be quite challenging to bring in pleasurable experience. Quite challenging to just allow it, and to, you know, as Blake said, he who binds himself to a joy does the winged life destroy. He who kisses a joy as it flies lives in eternity's sunrise. So in a sense, that's what we're trying to get with the pleasure. So we try and hang on to it or squeeze more pleasure out of it. We kill it. You know, if we can learn to just kind of open to it, be with it, feel it, enjoy it even, actually, you know, it brings us into a kind of an eternal present, in a sense of just experiencing that without looking forward and grabbing or comparing or whatever, being worried that it's going to end. So, yeah, pleasant, kindness, neutral, curiosity. No, pleasant, openness, enjoying it, sorry. neutral curiosity, unpleasant, being kindness, willingness to be with it, and just sort of seeing how we get on, just as this, think of it as an exploration, an investigation. And if this is not what you need right now, just do what you need to do, of course. So we'll just have a little micro break, as Vidya called it the other day. It's very good. So just have a little, stretch or do whatever you like before I say what we're going to be doing.
Vimalacitta.
Yeah.
Could I say something quickly to you?
Yeah.
With this coming close to the screen, it reminds me of myself, and I noticed you seem to do that. You talk a lot with your hands.
Yeah.
And my wife actually, when I was on the phone, has been holding my hands, and I couldn't speak anymore. And I was thinking about that because you said this would be negative, but actually you kept doing it, but I didn't find, maybe that's just you. I didn't find that disturbing or weird, or that's maybe how you bring it across, which is...
Thank you.
Yeah, so I thought this is...
Yeah. Oh, that's really, really sweet of you to say. Thank you. Yeah.
No worries.
It was okay because I've got this little microphone here, so I feel more sure that you can hear me.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so we're going to, as I said, do a little sesshin. So we'll do 3 short meditations, and in between them we'll have a couple of breaks. So one will be a bit longer than the other. The second one will be a bit longer than the first break. And mainly we'll work with the breath as a kind of stabilizing anchor, as we've said before, breath in the body. So we're just, get comfortable, sit how you need to sit, do what you need to do with the screen. Getting yourself in the position that feels right for you, that's going to support your body, that's going to best support awareness. And we're going to meditate for about 20 minutes. And we'll just give ourselves time to really arrive on the cushion, on the floor, on the chair, whatever you're settled on. And just bringing that openness to whatever you meet as you shut your eyes, or as you take your attention into your experience. And maybe just allow the fact that there are going to be ripples there from whatever you've been doing this morning, maybe particularly from listening to me, whatever that stimulated, but also maybe from your other activities this morning. There are going to be ripples in your experience from that, in the body, in your thoughts and your feelings. Just making room for whatever's there. Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. And maybe just take a little bit of time to let in the sort of sensations that you have of the environment around you. There might be sounds. The sort of temperature of the room, the aroma of the room, the atmosphere. And then particularly coming into our body and feeling that contact that we make with whatever's underneath us, whatever's supporting us, feeling those sensations of pressure, of touch. Just sitting or lying comfortably down into that, feeling that support. And maybe having a sense as well from that rootedness that there's also all that energy in the body that keeps us upright. There's also a lifting, a sort of subtle, natural, automatic lifting in the body. So we're rooted and kind of open. And then we'll just bring a bit more attention again to our overall experience. So our body, the sensations there, maybe just scanning it lightly to yourself, or just noticing what sensations are to the fore at the moment. And you might just notice if there are unpleasant sensations there, and that might be quite subtle. You might just notice how you react to them. Is there a pushing away, an ignoring, a fixing? A wishing they weren't there? That might be going on in your mind. See if you can just be with. Is there any willingness there to just be with those sensations as they are? Bringing a kinder attitude to them, maybe. Or simply, if that's too much, then just an acknowledgement that they're part of your experience at the moment. And then maybe noticing what's going on in our mental activity at the moment. Is it very sleepy, busy, preoccupied, calm? And again, if there's an unpleasant sense going on around our mental activity, you can just notice how we're reacting to that, if we can. We're producing more thinking. It's just saying, oh, I wish it'd go away, or an atmosphere in our mind of wanting it to be different. So just noticing that. It's all part of the mental activity that's going on. But just seeing if we can bring a bit more willingness, kindness. This is just how we are in this moment. How we feel at the moment, how it feels to be us. Just making room for that. And again, if there's anything unpleasant that we're sort of reacting to, noticing that. Of course, there'll be more than that going on, but we could just explore that area of the territory of our experience. And then amongst all that, thoughts, feelings, sensations, there's also the breath. It's been there the whole time. So we gently take our attention towards the breath. And just feeling the breath as part of our bodily experience. Breathing with whatever's going on. Maybe just letting your attention rest somewhere where it's most easy to feel the breath. Letting it rest in that smaller area and just feeling the sensations and movements that happen as you breathe. Maybe your chest or your belly, your back, just wherever you like. And if we feel any unpleasant sensations or mental activity or feelings, if we notice we're reacting to them, just notice what that is. How does that feel? If there's lots of mental activity that's coming out of that, just noticing that. And it might be possible to just come back to the sensations that are kind of behind that or under that. Seeing if we can be with this experience. And if it helps, just imagine it's a little bit sort of touched with kindness or a willingness to sort of open to our experience, whatever it is. And if there's a discomfort that's a bit more acute, then maybe giving it some attention, breathing into it, or imagine softening around it. So we find ways to help us to be with it, to not be fighting it, struggling against it. And if we are really struggling with our experience, that is part of the unpleasant experience. That struggling in itself is painful. Seeing if you can feel that in your body, in your sensations. Bring some space to it, breathing into it or softening around it. Even exploring it if it's possible, but not in a forced, tight way. Only if there's a kind of willingness there to do it. And then we might just generally broaden out our experience of the breath from that one area to just feeling the whole of the breath in the body. All the different movements and sensations that just quite naturally happen as we breathe. Almost the breath, the wave of the breath in the body coming and going. So we're just learning to include in those less pleasant sensations. To notice when we react to them. To see what helps us to be able to include them in kindness, or willingness, or just whatever does help us. And to go beyond our thoughts about them and experience them a bit more directly. What are they really like, these sensations? Not what we think about them, what we imagine, or the stories we tell ourselves. The felt sense of them. And then just let go of any kind of investigation or focus. And just allow yourself to be for a while, not doing anything at all other than allowing your experience to be as it is, coming and going. Thoughts, feelings, sensations. Just relaxing back into the awareness that's there. And then when you're ready, starting to prepare to make that transition from stillness to movement, so maybe feeling that connection with the ground again. Having a sense of the room around you. And when you're ready, opening your eyes. So we'll have a 10-minute break. So if we come back at 22, and yeah, just do whatever you want, but see if you can keep it with the sort of whole sense of being in awareness, being mindful of what's happening as you do whatever you need to do. So those of us that are here already, as everybody kind of gathers, just getting yourself comfortable again, finding your posture again. As we explore neutral sensations, the swing voters of our experience, are they going to go one way or the other? So just those of us that have arrived, just really feeling into your posture again, into your body. And again, feeling that contact that you make with the support underneath you. If it helps you to sort of settle more, you could take a couple of deeper breaths. Feeling the rootedness of your body. That sense of energy that's keeping you upright if you're not lying flat on the floor. And we will just check in with ourselves again. So particularly noticing sensations in the body. And there might be pleasant or unpleasant experiences going on in our sensations, in our body. But there might also be kind of fairly neutral ones. They might have a slight flavour one way or the other, but on the whole, we just kind of overlook them. We maybe don't even know they're there because they're not sort of pulling our attention like pleasure and pain do. So there's neutral sensations in the body that we often overlook or become a bit invisible. Just ordinary. Maybe the feeling of the temperature of our body or the touch of our clothes against our body. And there are thoughts going on, of course, mental activity. Again, it might be quite kind of neutral. Maybe it isn't, don't worry if it's not. It just is what it is. But there might be some quite grey thoughts, like little bits of planning or random thoughts. Ones that just aren't very juicy. Or maybe our mind doesn't feel particularly pleasant or particularly unpleasant, it's just as it is. And don't worry if it isn't. Anything I say is just a suggestion. Just to point out what might be there, doesn't mean it is. And then your sort of feeling of yourself. How are you right now? So we just get a sense of our whole self sitting here, and then again, just starting to notice the breath that's been happening the whole time, maybe without bothering you at all. Just letting the breath be a kind of stabilizer, an anchor. To encourage us into the present moment, or back to the present moment of our experience, our actual experience, just as it is. And as we breathe, it's possible we might notice those sort of neutral sensations around the breath, around the body. And just see if you can bring a bit more curiosity to those. What do they really feel like? Maybe as we explore them, they do take on more of a sort of hedonic tone. They become pleasurable or less pleasurable or even painful. That's fine if they change, but just exploring. Maybe just the little movements in the body as you breathe, rising and falling of the shoulders, or the lift of the chest, the drop, the release. So we to put quite a broad sense of ourselves with our breath just as that anchor. Just to keep our attention or come back to the moment-to-moment experience that we're having. And maybe our mind sort of wants us to wander away from those neutral-ish sensations onto something that seems more pleasant or more unpleasant. Maybe it's looking for something more juicy, more interesting. If that's the case, you just notice that. We're just noticing however we react. Watching the mind. Feeling the body, feeling those sensations. If you like, if you want to investigate a bit further, you might just sort of find an area that feels kind of neutral. And see if you can just bring some curiosity, some interest. What does it really feel like? What's it like to be with that moment to moment? Maybe it's just the feeling of our feet on the floor or our upper arms, or just wherever. There isn't much going on, it seems. Particularly pleasant or unpleasant. And then we'll just let go of that focus. Just being with your experience, whatever it is, just letting go of any sort of sense of trying to do anything. Letting go of a sense of doing a practice. And just let yourself be for a while. Resting into the awareness that's there. And then particularly feeling the weight of your body again, contact with the ground. The sense of the room around you, the space around you. And just opening your eyes again when you're ready. And we'll just have another 10-minute break. So if you could come back at 7 minutes past, that would be great. And maybe as you go around your house, you might just notice some of those neutral experiences that you're having. Take a bit of curiosity there.
You're muted, Vimalacitta.
Thank you so much. I'll say that again without the mute on. So those of us that are here, maybe if you just settle again for our last meditation. And again, just feeling that support under you. There it is again. Really feeling it though, the sensations of contact, the weight of our body, just sitting comfortably down into that, or lying into that. And then again, just checking in with our body, our sensations. With our mental activity, just the sort of quality of our thinking, not necessarily the content. Busy or clear, spacious or contracted, just whatever's there. And just how we feel at the moment, how we feel to be us right now. How it feels to be in our skin at the moment. And there might be all sorts of things going on in our experience. There might be unpleasant sensations and neutral sensations, neutral feelings, unpleasant feelings, but there may also be pleasant experiences too. Sometimes they're right alongside the unpleasant ones. And again, we kind of overlook them. Sometimes we overlook them because we're too busy looking for a particular sort of pleasure, an idea of pleasure, an idea of what we want. But if we start to investigate, to search the territory of our experience, sometimes we can find there is pleasure there. It might be quite subtle. Maybe maybe a sense of energy in the body that's just a little bit freer. Or a warmth. Or a part of the body that feels a little bit more relaxed. Or maybe our mind feels a bit calmer. Or there's some pleasant sensations around our heart. And however small they are, just giving them some attention, some interest, opening up to them. Often these subtle pleasures, you might think, oh, they're not good enough. They're not pleasurable enough. So it's just thoughts. See if you can come back to that experience. Make room for it. Open to that pleasure. See if we can really savour it or feel it, enjoy it. As we breathe, feeling the breath in our body, maybe breathing with that sense of pleasure. Might just be the stillness of having stopped. And if you can't find anything, don't worry, just stay with what's there. Breathe with what's there. Maybe there's pleasurable elements of the breath. There might be tight feelings or unpleasant feelings there with the breath too, but there might also be some areas of the experience of the breath that just feel easy or satisfying. Just enjoying it as it is, not trying to push it or stop it. Just seeing if we can be with it, breathe with it. Maybe we can just let go of that idea of being a serious meditator. And just sitting here with our experience, exploring, investigating, enjoying, or being with whatever's there. And if there's any pleasurable sensations or feelings or sort of mental space, see if you can just open to it. And then you could just let go now of any idea of doing a practice. And for a while, just letting yourself be, relaxing back into that awareness that's just there already. Whatever's going on in your experience, just letting it happen. Pleasant, painful, or neutral. No need to interfere, no need to stop anything or start anything. And then as we start to get ready to make that transition again, doing it gradually. So maybe feeling that contact again with the ground. Maybe having a sense of the room around you, what you're picking up with your senses. And when you're ready, opening your eyes. Okay. So after mindful movement this afternoon, we're going to have groups again, and that might be an opportunity if you want to share something of what went on in this session. So we've got inquiry groups, so you can do that if you wish. And for now, I just like to invite you, between now and the mindful movement session, your lunch and everything, why not just sometimes we suggest to people they have kind of mindful moments when you're just aware of your experience every now and then. But I think, why not have some pleasurable moments or some savouring moments? So when you do something and it's pleasurable, it might just be, you know, the first mouthful of your dinner, or it might be going outside and catching the air in your nose and the kind of taste of that, or it might be stopping meditating and getting to stretch. But see if you can really try and feel that in your body. Really try and feel the sensations of that, as in sort of stay with it before we just immediately go, oh, that's nice. And get on and do the next thing, or wonder about it, or see if we can enhance it by doing something else. Just see if you can just pause and savor for a moment that feeling, and just see what happens. Yeah, because that's quite an interesting thing to do, and something we do in the courses, for 1 week of home practice. And it's quite an interesting thing to open up, just to notice pleasant moments and bring a bit more awareness to them. Okay, so enjoy your lunch, and see you at mindful movement. If you want to say goodbye, you can. If you want to unplug yourself, unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Vimalacitta. Thank you.
Have a nice one.
Yeah, go well.
See you all a bit later.
Yeah.
Thank you from Melbourne.
Oh, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. That was lovely.
Oh, good. Thanks,
It's in the
Linda.
middle of the night in Melbourne.
Yeah, it is.
Goodness, well done you.